Hello and welcome to another episode of Northside NOW. This is the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. My name is Patrick, and with me as always are my co-hosts, Glenn Miller and Kevin Bryant. What's up, fellers?
What's happening?
New.
Are you saying that there's something new, or?
Oh, that's a special language that I made up.
New. You'll have to share that with us.
It's a new season. It's fall.
New.
Autumn. It's autumn.
It's your daughter's season.
Yes.
It is.
She owns a season. Did you
She
notice?
does. We do have some fall decorations that say like things like autumn leaves and like things like that. She's going to be spoiled when she grows up thinking it's all about her.
Now, you both have women in your lives. I kind of remember this being a thing. Maybe it was with my mom, but there's different colors, right? Color palettes that sort of fit you and your skin tone.
Oh, yeah, I've heard
things.
that.
So fall colors or winter colors or whatever. Does it matter when you're born? Does that determine what colors look good with you? So like, will autumn have browns and oranges and stuff that go good? I don't know anything about this, but
I don't know.
maybe we should get an expert to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking
no
Glenn and
idea.
I. We are the fashion experts.
Yes, we are.
Well, I appreciate your fashion sense, guys.
So I think a more relevant question is, are you drinking your pumpkin spicy stuff yet? Or smelling it? Because my girls have definitely whipped out the pumpkin spice candles
Yes.
and everything. I smell it and see it everywhere now.
No.
I'm not about it either.
The pumpkin spice lattes and all the craziness, I don't quite understand it. I mean, I like pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
But just the obsession with pumpkin spice to me, I just don't understand. Patrick?
I don't drink pumpkin spice.
Oh, okay.
But I'm all about the fall season, so I embrace it when it gets here.
Well, I do like the weather and
Yes.
the colors of the leaves and things. I definitely enjoy that part.
But y'all inspired me after our conversation about having already seen Halloween things out.
Yes.
So I saw a thing where you get the little pumpkin things that you trick or treat in.
Yeah.
And you cut out the bottom and you cut up the back and you can wrap it around like your garage light or something like that. And we have lanterns on either side of our garage. So I spent $1.50 a piece for these and I did this thing and it looks cool.
Look at you.
So y'all inspired me. So we have pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns on our lights at our
We should
house
take a
now.
picture of that and we post it.
Yeah, I've got that. So
Yeah.
I went by the house that I was talking about with all the decorations out in the yard.
Yeah.
Because there's a house over by the hospital that decorates like,
I think I've seen that.
and it gets bigger every year. It's like bigger than most Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
But I went by and I drove by and I stopped and I was like taking pictures and I was just kind of like driving slowly, taking pictures out of my car. And it wasn't till I got past the whole house taking pictures that I realized they were standing in the yard, and I took pictures of they probably thought I was taking pictures of them as well. I don't know. Hopefully they realized I was taking pictures of the decorations. I didn't even realize there were two actual people standing
Well, when they're
amidst the decorations.
and they're dressed up like zombies and
No, they were just normal people.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just like, and they were just kind of watching me like, what are you doing? So
But
good
we've,
times.
We've never been a super Halloween decorating. And we've done like some ghosts in the trees or little ghost things and some jack-o'-lanterns and more of a fall pumpkins and stacks of pumpkins and cotton bowls and sunflowers. and
Home
that kind of
Depot
stuff.
was selling, and I think they still sell these. They're like 12, 15-foot skeletons that you can put in your yard. And I really want one of these. And people leave them up all year round, and then they just like dress them up for the different holidays. So they've got these 12-foot skeletons outside their house, but then they like put a Santa outfit on it for Christmas, or then they'll put and they'll just kind of dress it up for each holiday and just leave it up all year. And it's like, I really want to do that.
Our neighbor is definitely into Halloween decorating. If you've ever been to the Wrights Mill neighborhood, you know what I mean. So he's progressively put some stuff up, and there is it feels like a 12-foot skeleton. His like chest cavity glows, and he's got glowing eyes and all this stuff. And so I'm just waiting to see what happens on actual Halloween, how much more that ends up growing into.
My favorite Halloween decoration of all time, though, is the one where looks like a witch has like flown into a building or a tree or something. Like pancake. That just makes me giggle every time I see it. I don't know why. The broom's like hanging down. I just love that. That's funny.
I remember as a kid when I got older, so I don't know, it wasn't super old, maybe 6th grade, but I didn't really do a lot of the trick-or-treating. We lived in a rural neighborhood, and it was kind of far away to go to the neighbors. We had a few neighbors around us, but we didn't go very far. But I remember I really got into, back then it was a cassette tape, but I recorded or somehow got a hold of some sound effects and a tape recorder. And so I hid that in the bushes. And then we had this big staircase that was kind of a turning situation into the front door, which is where everybody would come. And so I got this plan. I can't remember exactly. I think I dressed up as a ghost or something, but I hid in the bushes. And then right as the kids would come up, I'd try and scare them.
Yeah, growing up, passing out candy became an art form.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So I enjoyed that part.
Yeah. So seasons changing, things are going on there. Hey, listen, speaking of kids and Halloween trick-or-treating, because we used to just go, did y'all just like take off? A parent would go with you often, but I heard on a podcast the other day, this guy had been doing some research and that since COVID, could y'all guess what the average kid unsupervised activity timeline is? So how many minutes that these kids are out just unsupervised, playing in the yard, unstructured?
A day?
Yeah. Well, actually, this number is actually per week.
Okay.
This is what they said, per week.
40 hours a week.
7 minutes per week since COVID that a lot of kids are just unstructured playtime where they aren't doing like organized sports, organized something. They're just in the yard playing is some new stuff that they are finding out.
So what you're saying is it's a lot less.
You said 7 minutes per week. That doesn't seem right to me.
Me either. And whenever the guy said it, the host was like, what? And he said, yeah. He said, it's because we're staying inside and doing more inside stuff. Everybody is, but including kids, that they're not really getting out unless it's structured. It's something structured.
See, I thought might be included in that would be like gaming in your room unsupervised.
Now, this is outside,
I see.
Outside. I'm sorry. I should say outside unstructured time.
Yeah, outside playing in the yard. That can,
yeah.
Nobody does that anymore.
Nobody goes outside.
7 minutes per week, though. So,
although our guest today did talk about that a little bit in their neighborhood.
Yep. So, anyways, some weird stuff there.
Yeah,
that is strange, and that's sad. Actually,
let's go outside, people.
Yeah.
And if you're going somewhere, go downtown.
Hey, downtown is a good place to be.
Downtown is a good place to be.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit recently with Amy Crenshaw and the Community Cafe. And we talked Women of Hope and lots of different things, highlighting things in our area that are local and cool things to visit. And you've probably heard of the Buy Local campaigns, and I think there's definitely something to that. As a small business owner, it helps when people in your local area patronize those businesses.
And in fact, we were recently down at the Community Cafe where I got a flat tire, and
congratulations.
We went into the Turntable, right?
Yeah.
That's a music store, correct?
Well, Turntable, it's a coffee shop.
It's
a coffee shop that they sell records out of as well. So.
And in there is our friend of the podcast, friend of us all, Beth Ann Simpson, who's in charge of the economic growth. Is it EDCC or something?
JDCC. Like that? JDDC. It's the Jackson Downtown Development Corporation.
Yeah.
JDDC.
JDDC. But Beth Ann came in and visited with us, and so we have her on the podcast today, and some great stuff going on about downtown, what that looks like, because we get a lot of questions about that. So let's turn it over to Beth Ann and hear what's going on in downtown Jackson. We're here today with Beth Ann Simpson. And what is your exact title?
I'm the director of Jackson Downtown Development Corporation.
Cool. And what exactly is downtown Jackson? We were talking about that a little bit beforehand. So,
like the boundaries?
Yeah. What does downtown Because for some of us, I mean, downtown to me is almost like from the mall to Southside High School.
Sure.
And so,
for sure. We would call that area from, the mall area to the Lana neighborhood as Midtown.
Okay.
And then you've got downtown, which really starts at the roundabout, which is Dedrick. And then it goes to where Airways meets Main Street, and then where Royal meets South Highland.
So all the tall buildings.
There you go. Yeah.
The skyscraper.
And then beyond Royal Street would just get you into South Jackson. And that's the boundaries we work within for JDDC that are clean so that we can determine who we promote and what grant funding we receive and how we spend it. So we have to have those kind of clear boundaries, but for others, that might be larger, know, and it might be more gray.
So there's been a lot of development. There's been a lot of change in downtown in Jackson in the last several years, and there's more going on. So what are some of the improvements that have already happened to downtown? Or improvements may not even be the right word. Let's just say changes that have been made to downtown, and then we will then talk about what's coming.
Sure. Well, and I think this happens a lot in downtowns. You have decades where people are invested in revitalizing downtowns, and then there's times where people have fled them. And we've had both. And over the last kind of 2 decades, people have been reinvesting in downtown. And obviously 10 years ago, you had a major investment with Jackson Walk. That's been 10 years this year.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. And that was
doesn't seem that long.
Right. Because I can remember as a student, I've been here for 18 years, started as a student at Lambeth, and there was nothing there but a ditch and a warehouse for the city maintenance department.
Yeah, and so I can attest to that. Right. I was 2 years behind you, I think, at Lambeth, and there was nothing down there.
And there was nothing to do downtown. I mean, you didn't come down there for much, maybe to get your tags or the occasional lunch spot or something. Yeah. So that was really a catalyst. Hal Crocker and Henry Turley kind of got people reinvested and reinterested in downtown. And I think people thought they were crazy for doing what they were doing. And would this be successful? I mean, Lyft going there, and people are like, really? We're going to put this downtown? Because there were people fighting to have that in other parts of the city. So that really changed the game. And now that that's established and you've got a residential population living downtown that's blending into Midtown, that residential population, that growth is so helpful for the other things that come, like restaurants and retail and that development. And so now what you're seeing, I think, after these kind of 10 years of developing Jackson Walk, is now you've got some new property owners that have invested into the core of downtown to revitalize some of these old buildings and repurpose them and get both residential on the second and third floor, as well as restaurant and retail on the ground floor. And so we've got a lot of projects underway. Some I can share about that are kind of confirmed, and others that are still in the works. But I think what you're seeing now is kind of that next wave of developers coming in. If they've already owned property, they're motivated to do something with it if they've maybe been sitting on it. Or you've got, a new team in there that's bought quite a few properties downtown and has some pretty big plans.
Yeah.
So
I know recently we had some friends come through town and we went downtown to eat, which has not always been the thought process as people were traveling through, so we were like, where do we want to go? Well, we started naming all these places, like Rockin' Dough and Women of Hope Cafe and Jackson Kitchen, and so all of those things. So what are some of those things that have come and you've seen those differences? I know the walk area really has, but there's a lot of new little cafes and things that have popped up as well.
Just in the last year or two, you've seen several new restaurants and businesses, and then there's more to come, which is exciting. So
can you share any of those?
Sure, I will. So you've got Jackson Kitchen Catering, which just opened recently, which is the same group that does Rockin' Dough and Hub City Brewing.
Oh, okay.
That's the same ownership there, and they're doing well. You've got Skillet Junction at the Neely House, a new, it's called Crystal's Zen and Juice, which is a vegan juice bar, and she has some food items too. She does lunch. That's running out of the old Jackson Depot, the train depot.
Really? Oh, okay.
It's really neat. You should take a visit there too. She just opened a few months ago as well. I'm trying to think of another restaurant. There's a couple in the works. You got Starbucks on the corner of Highland.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I just saw their sign go up today, actually.
Oh, wow.
So that one should probably be open in the next month. You've got Little Bird Restaurant and Bar. It's at the Roundabout. That is a vegan restaurant.
Now, where is it?
It's right there next to the roundabout.
Is it like in that old gas station area?
No, but it's across the street from that.
It's across the street from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't see that yet.
I saw their sign up.
Doesn't it look good?
It looks real good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So she's going to be really successful. I'm excited to see what she does with her space. So she should be open in November is what I hear.
Okay.
And then you've got on the corner of Highland, it used to be the old city court building.
Yeah.
That is going to be a Mexican restaurant.
Really?
Oh.
It's actually the owners of Los Portales.
Okay.
And this is common knowledge, so I'm not sharing,
Yeah.
I'm not sharing
feels
too
like a
much.
scoop, though.
Doesn't it? They kind of changed their brand for downtown and kind of doing an elevated Mexican brand.
Wow.
That's a big space, so they've got their work cut out for them. And I don't think they'll be open until sometime. When I asked, I got sometime next year. So sometime in 2024, there's a Mexican restaurant downtown, which will be great. There's a couple other potentials that are kind of coming up from we started Food Truck Friday at the farmers market every Friday. And what we're seeing is there really is a need for some local food trucks and small restaurants that are looking to make their next step and grow into space. And so there's conversations being had about, where they could go next in downtown. But there are challenges too with that because downtown is locked in and you've got to think about parking. You've got to think about waste management and how we navigate those things. And so we're getting ahead of that so that we can prepare for this growth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Some retail. I think something that's been exciting is the local has worked really well as micro retail to get people started. I don't know if you all know what the local is, but they start in these shipping containers. They have low rent. They have the support of us and the co. And then as they get more established and get that kind of trial run with brick and mortar, then it's been successful for several businesses to then spill out into downtown and get larger space.
Oh, wow.
So the 906 was a thrift store that just moved to Main Street. That's a good example of how that worked really well at the local. Turntable Coffee and Light Trap Books is an example of the local. Garner Blue at the Jackson Walk was at the local. So that model seems to be working well, and we have 3 new tenants in there now. 2 of them have their grand opening September 30th.
In the little spaces.
In the little spaces, yeah. And they do a lot of community events and try to work together to provide more than just retail shops. So the local's a sweet little spot.
Cool. There used to be a lot of like antique places and stuff like that. Are those still there, or are they is that cool thing kind of moving somewhere different and something else is taking
what
those
I've
places?
seen? I haven't seen antiques currently reside in downtown. I think that there's definitely space for it. I think what we're seeing more of is thrift stores kind of in their niche, like 906. Then you've got kind of what some would consider Midtown, the Hicksville area.
Yeah.
You've got the Lost Reserve and you've got the Mother Thrifter. Those 2 are doing really well in Hicksville, actually. Kind of a little outside of my downtown boundary, but we'll still count them. But I think that what I have seen is when you get residents living downtown, and then you get some restaurants, places for people to eat. It's still very much a working downtown, a 9 to 5. Lots of offices and law offices and services. But I think what we'll see next, kind of filling in the gaps, is some of that retail. And so I encourage people to reach out if they're looking for space downtown, because there still is.
Yeah.
There still is space, and people are eager to show you. So... And I think we're seeing an uptick in people wanting to be downtown and it being a desirable place for people to do business.
Yeah.
Talk about, you mentioned it, but a little bit about living downtown. Jackson Walk area, obviously, Airbnbs and things, right? So that's something that I don't really think about, although obviously the Vrbo Airbnb trend across the world has grown exponentially in the last 10 years for sure. Talk a little bit about that, and then folks that are here temporarily, whether it be healthcare, there's a lot of different things that I think some people don't realize.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's actually something we've added to our website at downtownjacksontn.com is you can go to the stay and do section and find both Midtown and downtown Airbnbs because it is such a need. We want to have people stay overnight and experience where they park their car and don't have to move it for the weekend. There's plenty of things for them to do. from eating to activities to, they can run to a grocery store now at Grubbs. They can run to a pharmacy. So I really think that we've kind of made that turn where it really is livable and walkable, and you can do all those things. And so we're seeing more, you've got, like I said, the Jackson Walk area is really, really doing well in that you can live there and walk to everything you need.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now is people invest in the core. There's some apartments available or that will become available soon on Lafayette. And there's several Airbnbs already available. I think just in the past year, since I took this job, I think originally there were 0 Airbnbs downtown, and now I know of 6 or 7 online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then in Midtown, it's grown from, I have an Airbnb myself. It's in the basement of our home. And I started it 2 years ago. And I remember a handful of Airbnbs. And just in 2 years, it's grown dramatically.
Wow, cool.
So there's places to stay close by. We get a lot of that, whether they're here for the hospital or they're here for college campus day. I know I do this. When I go to other towns and I'm visiting somewhere, I want to stay in their midtown or downtown area where it's going to be more walkable and things are close by and it's eclectic. And I'm always looking for that experience. So I'm not surprised that that's what other people are looking for. So it's been exciting to see that part grow. And then I think I can share this. This is a little scoop, but people are working on a hotel downtown. So
cool.
Yeah, that triangle that where Airways meets Lafayette and Main, right across from Hub City Brewing.
Yeah.
There's some work being done. Now that property has been purchased, I think I can say a hotel is going there. But it'll be branded for Jackson and boutique in nature, so it'll fit the aesthetic of Jackson and downtown. There's another possibility of a boutique hotel in the core that someone's working on. So again, like not a lot of beds, but another kind of option to stay overnight. So that'll really make an impact.
Yeah.
It really will.
Is there any plans for other venues? I know you have like the Ned and you have Hub City. Are there other venues or attractions that are coming to the downtown area that kind of helps people get down there and move around at night and stuff, especially like that?
I think that there is definitely a group of people trying to get us past that 9 to 5 downtown and bring some, safe entertainment.
Like a movie theater or something?
That would be nice. That'd be nice. I don't know if there was like an old theater at one point that was damaged in the tornadoes. Is that correct?
I think there was one at
there
one
used to be 2 down there.
The Malco was down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there used to be 2 down there, and they were kind of next door where the parking lot in front of First United Methodist Church is, where that parking lot is. That's where they were. But
well, see, I'm not the expert of downtown. See, other people know more than me. It's nice to talk to others who've been here longer, because even though I've been here 18 years, there's a whole history that I'm still learning, and I really love that part of this job because there is such rich history downtown. But I would love to see something like that, but I don't know of anything quite in the works yet for that. But I do think there's a push for music. We've got Hidden Tracks with kind of our Visit Jackson collaboration, and they're doing a really good job of highlighting where you can listen to music every week, which I really appreciate that. And so a lot of those venues are downtown, even if they're smaller. Like the Blacksmith might have music. Baker Brothers. The Net is doing a fabulous job at their theater shows, and I've just seen such a uptick in people coming to those shows. The Carnegie has added music in the basement. If you've never been in the basement of the Carnegie, it's worth going to. It's kind of a little speakeasy-ish. And during the art walks that they do the first Friday of every month, they've added music there in the bottom of the Carnegie. So I think people are trying to activate more spaces for entertainment, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But we would love to see more of that downtown so that people are out. Things pick up a little bit on Thursday, Friday, Saturday in the evenings. There's some really cool bars downtown. I mean, I think one of them that gets overlooked is Doe's Eat Place.
Yeah.
They open their garage doors now that the weather's great.
Oh, okay.
And it's a really cool space. And then you've got the patio at Blacksmith. You've got some places you can hang out. Some of the things we've heard when we've kind of polled the community, like, what do you want to see? We hear family-friendly activities and evening activities, things like that, entertainment. That's what we hear.
Because it's cool to see the trolleys come through, even though they're on wheels. But, and that Doe's kept all of the Greyhound lights.
I know, it's great.
Things. Those kinds of things are just so neat.
They are, yeah.
So that's pretty fun. What about, we talked a little bit about living down there and stuff, and it seems like those prices they're definitely raising, but they're raising everywhere a little bit. But it seems like that is really a growing piece for a lot of people to even retire downtown.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize too that they've built some homes, not just the apartments and those options at Jackson Walk, but there's now developers that have come in behind Jackson Walk. You're bleeding into Midtown now, but
going towards Lambeth.
That's right. So McCowett Street's one. There were 10 homes built there.
Oh, okay.
And they've just sold. I think they've sold 2, and the third one's pending. And what you're seeing there is people are retiring, and empty nesters are coming down there to live in a more walkable community so that they can go to the AMP show and go to the dog park or walk over to grab Rock and Dough. And there's an ease in that. I think what you'll see next is kind of like what's happened on McCowett is you'll see that kind of continue into Midtown as some other streets that are building new homes there and attracting that population. But yeah, it's not all of it is affordable housing. And that's just a real topic that we have to address community-wide, citywide.
Yeah, that's all over right now too.
Right. So it is something we're trying to be strategic about with JDDC in the coming months. That's why we went on our trip to Memphis, actually, is to hear what they're doing, and they're doing it well, to incorporate affordable housing as they're growing and developing, because you got to have a little bit of everything. So we want to make sure we're not only providing options for a certain economic.
Yeah. And downtown is basically an art gallery all to itself. Is this part of all the murals and things? Is that part of what your group does as well?
Well, so we're in partnership on things like that. Okay. So, about a year ago, Mayor Conger established downtown similar to our JDDC boundaries, but it's a portion of downtown as an arts district now. And so it already had the murals, and people just naturally find themselves in downtown putting in art installations. And it's also got some great anchors that are in the arts, like the NED. The Jackson Symphony is downtown. The Carnegie, all of those things. And so I think that just happens organically. But what you've seen since naming it as an arts district is you've got Art on Shannon now, which is kind of like the local model where they created some studio space that is small and low rent so that these artists have a place to work. And then what you're seeing is those artists are downtown and they're available, and their art is kind of, coming out of our spaces. And then some of the work we're doing with, we have a downtown improvement grant that we just received from the state, and we're doing some facade improvements. But as part of that, we're incorporating some art on the crosswalks, or we work closely with the Public Art Commission to pair an artist with a property owner. So I sometimes am that bridge. So if somebody wants to do some sort of public art installation, then I'm working with property owners to connect them. And downtown just seems to be a space where that happens more organically. If that makes sense. So we've got a couple other projects underway that involve murals or alleyways that we're trying to activate to create better connectivity. So those are some of the things we're working on.
I have a question. We talked about businesses and retail and eating and staying. What about that area kind of across from, because I'm looking at the map on your website, and from the Riverside Drive to South Highland, that kind of south side that always feels definitely more industrial and more, I know Mayor has talked about redoing airways, and that would help tremendously. But what about that area? Is that really more a business district, and is there anything new kind of coming into that area?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So there's a focus on airways and that area and kind of revitalizing that next. So we've heard it from the mayor. We've also been in these planning processes with LRK out of Memphis. If you haven't been aware, there's 4 sub areas they've identified to kind of come up with design plans for kind of what's next for Jackson. So Old Hickory Mall area is one of them, service merchandise. West, just because they anticipate growth there due to Blue Oval.
Right.
And so there's going to be some probably residential growth there. And then you've got downtown as a sub area. Am I missing one? Or is that 4?
I think that was 4.
That was 4. Okay. So what came out of some of those plans, obviously they're still in the brainstorming phases, and they'll roll out what they kind of recommend. And I like to be clear that these are recommendations and these are things that we would like to see, but we have to find people in the capital to do them.
Yep.
But a lot of that focus, while downtown was a piece of the planning, it really focused on airways meeting Highland, or the bypass. not Highland, the bypass. And so they're currently still trying to gather funds for transforming Airways, the actual road, and kind of giving it a road diet. It needs to be totally reworked.
Right.
And so that's something that city has bought into, and that I think will happen. It's just a matter of getting all the funding in place. And then I'm already seeing people chattering about investing in Airways and it being a smart move to kind of look there, because I think what we'll see is that kind of being the next part of downtown, kind of expanding that way first. I think another thing that's going to be really cool is right there by Hub City Brewing, there's like a city parking lot. That will be the trailhead for the Greenway, the Green Line that's coming, and that trail will connect to Bemis.
Oh, really?
So it'll be nice to have kind of an entry point from downtown and then that side of downtown. And then in those planning documents, it was really cool what they could kind of lay out as a vision is if you could kind of picture that trailhead, and then you've got some of the development that happened with behind the lift, the creek. We kind of call it a creek or a ditch. It's a kind of a glorified ditch. But we developed it to kind of make it more than it is.
Sure.
And that creek runs all the way like behind the roundabout and up to Omen Arena. And so in those plans, they kind of show the potential if you developed that creek and alongside it, like I said, it's not going to be some massive river and not recreational, but it's pretty and it's something we could kind of highlight. Yeah. And it helps to connect and tie in from downtown all the way to Midtown over by East Jackson and Omen Arena area. So again, don't know if those things will happen and don't know the timeline for those things. Sure. But I do know that there's buy-in from the city and from developers to kind of see that vision. And so I'd love to see that happen.
And one of the things that you mentioned and I was curious about with all the talk of Blue Oval and everything, are we seeing a lot more investment from people outside of our area wanting to come to Jackson to develop it to be something, seeing the tie-in with the Blue Oval traffic and lots of potential future development?
I'm seeing some of that downtown already. So we've had a couple property owners that aren't local.
Yeah.
And maybe not even that far. We've had somebody from Nashville buy a property and see the potential there and want to develop it and get in when it's good.
Yeah.
I think what's exciting too is while we have to have this good combination of residential and retail and restaurants, because we are a service downtown and have, a lot of office space, it's kind of designed for that. We're seeing some corporate offices come down and that's helpful. And you want that buy-in from those.
Sure.
I mean, you've got Georgia Pacific downtown with us. You've got SK, their offices downtown. Okay. So just seeing that they want to be downtown and invest in it is good. And we're grateful for that. And so I think we will see more of that. I mean, you hear it in other communities. I think the health of our downtown is representative of our entire community. And I think that's why we say on our website, we're the soul of the city. Yeah. It is a cross section of our neighborhoods. It's supposed to be kind of an eclectic mix of all of us. And I think that people know the value in that and are starting to see like, hey, the time is right to get involved downtown.
I've been in some communities where they have these things. I think they're called kitchen halls or something like that. Is there any talk of that, something like that coming to Jackson? Because those are incredibly cool and they're very family attractive and things like that.
Are you like I think about the food hall or food assembly?
Assembly's Food Hall in Nashville.
So great.
Yeah. I was there just a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic.
So we love it because we might go see a show at the Ryman and we park once because parking. Oh,
yeah, horrible.
It's so expensive. You park once, you go and eat, and then you go to the ramen. You don't have to leave, and that's ideal. We are talking about it. It's something we really feel like is a next step for downtown in some way. We've talked more from JDDC because we've kind of helped with entrepreneur, small business development with the local. We really feel like our next move would be some sort of shared kitchen space. We just have to identify all the funds and the right space for that. It's something we're working on because we see a need for it, whether it's people trying to start their own restaurants or food trucks, people doing things out of their home. They really need space. Even vendors at the farmers market need space outside of their homes, and they would love to take advantage of some sort of shared kitchen model. So we're talking more about that, but there's lots of communities that are doing that well, where it's a shared kitchen model, but then they have a food hall type situation where those vendors are able to sell in smaller spaces and in community with each other. Someone gave us this feedback. I say this to also plug the Jackson International Food and Arts Festival. we see those once a year and they come out and they have this amazing food in these pop-up booths or tents. Wouldn't it be great if we had like a location where those things could live in a food hall all the time?
Yeah. Exactly.
I would love that.
That'd be fantastic.
Nashville Farmers Market where they've got all the international food places. And
we have that here and that culture here. And so I think we need to do a better job of creating space and opportunity for them to be so that we can all enjoy it all the time. So I would love that. And it's definitely been talked about, but no concrete plans or anything. But it's definitely something that I think would do well, and especially in downtown. So.
What about parking and transportation? I mean, eventually, if like we don't have Bridgestone Arena, we don't have where these massive amounts of people come and kind of envelop a town where you need a parking garage and so many different things. But what are the thinking around that?
I think that might have to come, though, eventually. So right now, I think there's a misconception that there's not enough parking downtown if people are saying that. I think it's sometimes just a lack of awareness of where you can park. Mm-hmm. So we have like 5 city lots that are free parking, no time limits. But we just don't live in a very... People don't always embrace walking if they can't see their destination. So people are walking further in a Walmart parking lot than they are downtown. I assure you.
That's a good point.
But they can see the door.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the challenge of getting people to park in lots, and they have to go around a corner to find their building. It's not as far, but they just can't see it.
Yeah.
We did fight to have the 2-hour limits back in the core of downtown, which has been in and out of being enforced just because, to be transparent about, JPD's staffing and where they are right now.
Sure,
and so...
Sure.
But our goal is to enforce the 2-hour parking just so customers of businesses can park close and come support these retail and restaurants and really encourage employees to go on the fringe. What we've had for years is it's just natural. The employees around the city and the county or these larger employers are parking close by when we could have them on the fringe in the lots and walking. And I think it goes back to a perception that maybe it doesn't feel safe. And we've worked really hard to show people that I feel like those are misconceptions. Come downtown and feel it for yourself that you really do feel safe walking to and from your building and from your car. And there's more activity. There's more people living down there, which creates safety. There's more eyes on things. Yeah. And so it's grown. And so if you haven't been downtown in a while, I would tell people to come and experience it and see for yourself. But I don't think parking's an issue right now. I think we have a lack of signage and telling people where to go. It's something that we're working on. Wayfinding signage downtown is not really there. But I think with growth, with residential growth, as we fill in, there might need to be, especially with hotel and some of that happening, we really might have to think about transforming some of these surface lots. Like, do we need a parking garage eventually? A lot of other communities that we've traveled to visit do that well. Their city invests in parking garages and then they're making money from that, and that goes back into their downtown. So there's some really good models of how you can do that. But as long as we can, we want to keep parking free. And right now it is, and we want people to not have that barrier.
Sure.
But there might come a time where we can't do that.
Everything in the world, you go to a convention or something and there's all kinds of publications and groups. Everything has it. I mean, I think there's probably a ditch diggers group out there that you can go to a convention and they're looking forward into the future. So what does downtowns look like in the future? Do you think it'll be something where they try to hold on to the past? Or as you're walking around those circles of your professional life, what are some of the things that downtown people are looking forward to having come towards the downtowns in the future?
I mean, I think that what I hear from business owners and property owners downtown, and that's really who I serve, we're people that are just frequent guests of downtown, is I think there's a blend of both. I think people want to hold on to some nostalgia and the history of downtown and honor those, especially the integrity of the buildings. I think that there are a lot of people that are doing work that want to honor the way things look and feel. But also there's a new wave that are open to repurposing these buildings. Just like I give the example of Havner's Frame Shop, that was the old fire station, but they've transformed it into an art gallery and a frame shop. I think that there's people open to reinventing spaces, but still holding on to the integrity of downtown. I think people love that we have parades and festivals downtown and would love to see that grow. Our organization has gotten less involved with planning events like the Shannon Street Music Festival and things like that, but instead encouraging these organizations and business owners to do that, and we help make that happen. I think one of our identities is music, and people want to be about music and rockabilly, and so you've got Jackson Records downtown, you've got the AMP series, you've got other music venues, and I see that several partners between Visit Jackson and us really want us to kind of I think we need to do a better job of knowing our identity, not just in Jackson, but in downtown.
Sure.
And what we see that's successful in other downtowns is celebrating your neighborhoods and honoring the way they look and the culture they bring. So Jackson Walk's a neighborhood, and it really has its own image. But that doesn't mean that Jackson Walk needs to look like that throughout downtown and down to Royal.
Right. Exactly.
You know, Royal Street is its own community of East Jackson, and it really needs to be celebrated. And how can we enhance that, but let the people of Royal Street have their own culture and be empowered to do things within, and we just celebrate that. And then the core of downtown has its kind of own identity of local entrepreneurs, kind of that spirit. And I think we just need to like hone in on that and celebrate it more, you know? And so I think you've got a good blend of some, you know, larger investments to small business owners really trying to rally and make it work. And I hope it continues to be that for everybody. It'll obviously change a lot over the next few years. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think one of our missions for JDDC is to help fill in those gaps. When we do see a gap, is how can we help bridge and find resources or so that it can be for everyone. I don't know if that answered your question, but...
Yeah, it really did.
Okay.
And so that's good. There's a lot going on downtown.
There is.
And that is wonderful to hear. Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah, I'm so glad y'all invited me.
So, is there anything else that we haven't even thought about? What even on our dream board?
I don't know. I would just tell people that maybe haven't been to downtown in a while to follow us on Instagram and get on the website and see what's down there and show up for an event or come to a Ned show and come eat dinner downtown. I just think there's plenty to do. And the more we spend time downtown and spend our dollars down there, then the more we're going to see too.
Yeah. So, well, great. Well, thanks, Beth Ann, for coming and hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
Letting us know what's going on downtown Jackson.
So, we're going to go downtown and hang out a little bit?
We're going to go in one of y'all's cars, though.
I felt like we could have talked a lot more about a lot of other things. It was such an interesting conversation. And actually, when we turned the mics off, we
still talked for a little while,
Well, and we talked about how downtown and midtown and North Jackson, uptown, whatever. Uptown. West Town, East Town, how everybody's starting to work together in Jackson, and there's some of those conversations happening. And that is encouraging and exciting to hear because we're going to grow.
Yeah.
And so I always like it when people are thinking about things with intentionality and purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something she said too, you know, we could solve some problems if we just work together.
Yeah.
I think that's always the danger is that we get comfortable in our own little zone.
Yeah.
We want what we want, but you know, I've grown up in Jackson a lot of my adult life and actually childhood a little bit. But even now, I feel like my world just keeps me in the north uptown, whatever you want to call it, North Jackson, etc. And I just don't really even think about downtown too much. I don't have a lot of things that take me down there. But, you know, I could do a better job of going downtown and shopping local and doing some of those things. And we have as a family have started doing a little bit of that too. But I do think it takes us being intentional, just like your Christian walk and everything else, to go out of your own little zone and be intentional. Yeah. I don't know that as a community we will come together just accidentally, unless there's, heaven forbid, a natural disaster or something, you know, like we just came off of September 11th anniversary here recently. And I was reminded of kind of that stuff there too, but I think we could solve more problems if we did work together. So the north side and the east side and the west side and the south side too. I think it was encouraging to hear that's happening, you know, in some pockets. And as we move forward into the blue oval landscape, I think tons more opportunity for all of us to do that will be right before us.
Yeah. So get yourself downtown.
Do it.
It really is a lot of fun. And I know some of our folks here at Northside are starting to live down that direction too. So yeah, get yourself downtown.
And you guys have known Beth Ann for a little while. I just met her. So I think she worked at Lambeth for a while.
Yeah.
And
she worked at Lambeth. She also worked at Lambeth Memorial United Methodist Church as their children's person. And
I see.
And her and her husband worked with the kids. And she just has a heart for the communities and the neighborhoods and reaching out. And she's a great person to have in that position. So really good. Good for her to be there because she's going to do all she can to help make Jackson the best place it can be.
Yeah, lots of energy, good at connecting people.
Yeah,
it seems, and that's what development's all about. Really, is connecting the right people for the right things and what they want to do, and empowering them to do that.
Yeah,
so we come to the outcomes that we all want collectively. It's pretty neat.
When we started the podcast, we were talking about decorations and stuff like that. I remember all the little towns that put up the little things on the light poles,
like Christmas, if they have a Christmas decoration,
parades and things. And just Jackson has have a lot of neat stuff like that going on. And
indeed.
So if you grew up in a small town and you're kind of missing that, go downtown. It kind of has that small town feel in some ways. It just feels like home. That's
and you
good.
Can find places to park.
Yeah,
you can. There is plenty of parking.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons I asked that question, because sometimes I've felt like I don't know where to park.
Yeah.
But it's really not that far to walk.
No.
And it's interesting that she said that sometimes that comes about because people can't see the front door, which I never really thought about before, but that makes some sense.
Hey, look, they tore down 2 old movie theaters to make one of those parking lots.
That's
so
right.
People better park in it.
That's right. I think we've talked about that movie theater before.
We
actually.
have. It's still kind of a sore spot for me.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to go build a movie theater downtown, we would definitely go there.
Yes. Yeah. So good. We're excited to see Jackson grow. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Patrick, I'm sure we've got a few things coming on the calendar, but before we get to those, I think we're going to do something special here. We have Clayton Ramsey coming soon on the podcast, and he works with young people and alcohol related stuff. So that'll be a fun conversation to talk about. But we're also, a lot of our listeners might remember that back in the summer, we did a road trip list that's on Spotify, and you can find that. But we are going to do a list of
hymns, not like current praise music or anything like that. This isn't CCM music. This is old school hymns. If you can find it in a hymnal, then it counts as a hymn.
So it could be a hymn for the 1980s.
Could be.
Yeah.
Or the
70s.
1880s.
Or 1680s.
Stipulation is it has to come out of a hymnal.
Okay.
So we will reveal our favorite hymns. We've asked the staff to give us some as well. And we're asking you. So as you hear this, send us back a message on Instagram or on our podcast at northsidejackson.com.
Email us podcast at northsidejackson.com.
And let us know some of your favorite hymns, and we will include those in the list and mention as many of them as we can. We figure there'll be some duplicates, but do that, and we'll reveal ours. And we will then do like we did last time and put out on Spotify a list of all of the favorite hymns that we come up with for this time. So it ought to be fun.
I'm excited. I got some good ones already.
We'll have a few stories related to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a fun time of exploration.
We're going to put a little tagline in here. Hymns out of the Cokesbury will count.
Okay. Those aren't allowed. Cokesbury's not a real... No,
Cokesbury will count. So if you have a Baptist hymnal or something like that, that's fine too. But not like the little purple praise book that has the little where it doesn't even have the music in there. It just has choruses.
So it has to be hard bound. Is that what
hard bound? So Cokesbury will count.
The old brown Cokesbury versus the red versus the blue.
The blue.
If you have to ask yourself, does this count as a hymnal? The answer is no.
Yeah. So anyways, so get ready for that. That's coming up, and that'll be fun. Yeah. So, but what else do we have coming at us?
Well, we got coming up really quickly the older elementary retreat to Lakeshore for the 3rd through 5th graders. That's going to be a good time. That's September 29th through October the 1st. If you've got questions about that, contact Miranda. Then coming up quickly in October, we've got the Men's Emmaus Walk. That's going to be starting on October the 5th. If you've got questions about that, contact Daphne Moses. Then we've got on October the 10th, we've got Joy Group coming up. That is for our seniors, ages 50 and up. But, I mean, They're not, like I said before, they're not checking IDs at the door. So you can join that. That's going to be a lunch at 11 o'clock in Hope Hall. And then there's going to be a presentation by Rachel Humphrey from Lift Physical Therapy on October the 10th. Then coming up on October the 19th is the Women's Emmaus Walk. And again, contact Daphne Moses for more information on that. Then we'll have our Fall Fest on October the 29th. That's going to be from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And again, if you've noticed, I've been calling it Trunk or Treat. We're not calling it Trunk or Treat. We're calling it Fall Fest.
Okay.
Because it is going to be more than just Trunk or Treat. It will include trunk or treating, but there's going to be a lot more. We're expanding it. This is like 2.0. So we're just calling it Fall Fest to incorporate all of the new elements. So Stay tuned for that. That's going to be fun. And if you have questions about that or you want to get involved somehow, you can contact Miranda or Glenn. Yep. Then coming up in November 5th is going to be All Saints Sunday. November 14th, we're going to have Joy Group again. This time, John Button is going to be sharing some stuff from El Ayudante. Then on October the 19th, we're going to have Thanksgiving breakfast.
Oh, yeah. But not on October 19th.
Sorry, I meant November 19th.
He's wanting to push it up. It's his favorite Sunday of the year.
Look, I'm just getting excited. It is my favorite Sunday of the year.
Can you believe we're talking about that, though?
I know.
Craziness.
Wow. November the 19th, Thanksgiving breakfast. We're going to have one service that Sunday morning in the sanctuary at 9 o'clock, and then we're going to all move down and have breakfast together in Hope Hall. So that's going to be a good time. And then on December the 3rd, we're getting into holiday schedule.
Wow.
December the 3rd, Jingle Jam.
Woohoo!
Yeah, put that on your calendar. I think we're going to, tentatively right now, that's set for 6 o'clock, but stay tuned for more info on that. But yeah, Jingle Jam.
And I already have my stuff to wear. I am so pumped.
Yeah.
Wait for this one.
I'm excited. You do tend to bust out like some of the best.
I dress up more for Jingle Jam than I do for Halloween.
And then the next week, December the 10th, is most likely going to be the children's musical. Stay tuned for that. That's still kind of in the works, but go ahead and mark that on your calendar as potentially children's musical. And then December 12th, we got another Joy Group. This one's the Christmas Luncheon featuring Jared Heldenbrand and the USJ Choir. So that'll be a good time. Hear some Christmas singing. And then on December the 16th, we're going to have the Christmas Cantata at 7 o'clock p.m. in the sanctuary. And then that's a Saturday evening. And then the next morning, Sunday morning, the 17th, is going to be another performance of the cantata at 10 a.m. It's just going to be one service that morning at 10 a.m., and Sunday school will be at 9 a.m. And then the next week, December 24th, is Christmas Eve. Did you know that Christmas Eve was on the 24th this year?
Yeah.
I'm glad they finally did that.
I think I worked that out in advance.
So. I'm glad they finally did that.
But we're going to just have one service in the morning at 10 a.m., and that's going to be in Hope Hall. And then we're going to have our regular Christmas Eve services at 5 o'clock p.m. and 7 o'clock p.m. in the sanctuary. And then the next week, December the 31st, that is New Year's Eve. We are also just going to have one service that Sunday morning at 10 o'clock p.m. in the sanctuary, and there will be no Sunday school on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. So I think that's tentatively what I've got to the end of the year.
Wow, that's impressive. You've already got us less than 90 days to Christmas.
It's a big update.
That is a big update.
Well, we've got less than 90 days to Christmas. So
if Apple can release 17.0, we can do a big update too.
Exactly.
So there we go.
Try to keep people as informed as far out as I can.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
I'm Kevin.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now. Bye-bye.